I'm gonna go ahead and keep it a buck and say that in this video I will have heavy, if not outright, spoilers for Spider-Man No Way Home. So if you have not seen the movie, then click off this video. Just do it, guys, because this movie is best seen with a fresh pair of eyes. Pair of eyes that have not been tainted by anything else. Of course, that's going to be very difficult if you missed the first weekend for Spider-Man No Way Home, but this Christmas weekend, I would urge you all to go watch it because it is a 10 out of 10 phenomenal, the best Spider-Man movie of all time. And I do not say that lightly, because if you haven't seen it, then you won't understand this image right here, and that is why I gave you a spoiler warning. But this image right here is a culmination of the entire movie, what the movie is about, why the movie exists, and why it is the best Spider-Man movie of all time. Every Spider-Man movie that has come before it, even my favorite, Into the Spider-Verse, which was my favorite, it beat Spider-Man 2 when it first came out, and now this one has surpassed it. So honestly, it goes No Way Home, Into the Spider-Verse, and Spider-Man 2 for me for the top 3. And this movie is different in the sense that the original story for Peter Parker has him making a bad decision before he's Spider-Man, fucking everything up, ending up losing a loved one, killing somebody that by accident, by his own decision though, but by accident, killing somebody he holds dear, Uncle Ben usually, because of something that he did. And then after that, he becomes Spider-Man. He realizes with great power comes great responsibility. Spider-Man No Way Home does the opposite. It takes our king, it takes our rook, it takes our queen, and knocks it down to a pawn. The biggest issue that people have had with this version of Spider-Man from the MCU is that they believe that he is pampered, spoiled, has money, almost became an official part of the Avengers at one point, and is just Iron Man Jr. All these different things, I've heard it all before, and for me, I always liked Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man as his own thing. But this movie essentially takes that hero, that shining star that we've seen throughout the last, he's been in 5 movies at this point, 6 movies. That kid that is naive, has everything, has friends, it has a living relative that is there to support him, has the butler of Tony Stark. It takes him and brings him down to 0. In the movie, he loses all his friends because of his decision. He has to get his mind erased, and he has the opportunity to tell them who he is and bring them back into his circle after it. And Mary Jane wants him to do that, but he decides not to. Just like at the end of Spider-Man 1, where he forgoes Mary Jane in the original Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, because Spider-Man can't have people around him like that because they become casualties. They could become casualties. He doesn't want to put her in danger, or Ned in danger. He wants them to go off with their lives and go to college. So he sacrifices their friendship and his relationship to Mary Jane for the greater good. He becomes the original Spider-Man. He becomes Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. He becomes Spider-Man from the PS4 game. He becomes Spider-Man from the comic books. He becomes Spider-Man from the animated series. And actually, in the image that I showed, the thumbnail of this video, that is the exact costume that Spider-Man has in that's the exact same one he has in the comic book, in the animated series. It's a handmade costume that he finally has. It's not Stark Tech, it's not nanobots, it's not even a hoodie with goggles. It is the original suit, and he finally has become his own Spider-Man, living in a shitty apartment with no money, no He actually has the worst of it all, because at least the other two had different family members that were there in their lives. No, he's got the worst of it all. Now he's alone entirely and off to do his own thing, be his own Spider-Man, and it's extremely exhilarating to see how he goes in the future of the Spider-Man series, because now there's a new trilogy coming up with this version of Spider-Man, Doctor Strange doesn't know who he is. The Avengers don't know who he is. Nobody knows who he is. So basically, Spider-Man got reset in this, but in a very satisfying way because of the Green Goblin. The arch nemesis to the original Spider-Man is done beautifully here. Now, I'm not gonna nitpick the movie because to me, the movie, all the parts that were in the movie were sufficiently in the movie enough, and they didn't hamper the speed of the movie. Things happened the way they needed to happen, and they happened in a fulfilling and satisfying way. So to me, I don't think that the movie itself really has much, there's not much room for improvement. It's almost damn near perfect, to the point where I give it a 10 out of 10. It is perfect. You know what I'm saying? There's not really much that people will be like, oh, we want to see different villains more and all this stuff. They're going to get their spin-offs, obviously. We're talking about Andrew Garfield possibly getting a revival in the Venomverse, essentially, as their version of Spider-Man. We're talking that. So, with that being said, they're going to get their own stuff. This movie was focused on Spider-Man from MCU. Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire introduced beautifully in here. Andrew Garfield blows it out of the water, and Tobey Maguire is very similar to the Tobey Maguire we've seen, the Peter Parker that we've seen his version of in the first 3 movies, but with a tinge of just wisdom. There's some old man wisdom in there. He's a lot older now, but there's just some wisdom in there that he has. And he's the one that stops Tom Holland's Spider-Man from killing the Green Goblin because he wanted to kill him out of revenge. Even gets stabbed in the back, but survives because he's Spider-Man. But at the same time, like, this is riveting stuff, guys. This is extremely riveting stuff. Spider-Man wanting to heal and make the villains, the other Spider-Man villain, good guys again. It's such a Spider-Man thing to do. To try to rehabilitate these guys, it's a very hero thing to do. Spider-Man and Goku have that in common, and that's what makes Spider-Man. Like, as soon as I knew that was the plot, I was like, I'm so into this. This is such a great Spider-Man story. Not a Tom Holland story, not an Andrew Garfield story, not a Tobey Maguire story. A great Spider-Man story. It's up there with the greats. And the fact that it's a multiverse story, and my top 2 are multiverse type of stories, it's awesome, dude. It really is. It's just, everything is done so great. To me, the pacing it's not the best pacing that I've seen in a Marvel movie, because I had to verse this with my favorite Marvel movie of all time, which is Infinity War. And personally, to me, Infinity War is almost like a sonnet. It's a song. It's paced like perfectly. This one, not so much, because there's so many different things that happen in it, especially in the beginning, has a completely different tone. Scenes have different tones. But it's still, even though Infinity War is my favorite movie, this is my second favorite out of the whole entire MCU catalog. It's that good. It is, so if you're a Spider-Man fan, you're going to love it. It's a love letter to Spider-Man fans. If you're a Tobey Maguire fan, you're going to love it. Andrew Garfield, you're going to be like, wow, he needs to come back, because he has so much lovability in this. Like, it's like his character was rewritten to be, like, slightly rewritten to be more, like, you feel for him. There's so much heart there. There's so much love there. Like, he has the most amount of emotion in this movie, and it shows. Like, it doesn't completely engulf everything, but it just shows. It's really well done, honestly, and I cannot wait to watch this movie again. It is phenomenal. It is phenomenal as a Spider-Man movie, and it does Spider-Man justice. And lastly, if you're a Tom Holland fan, you're going to love it. If you're not a Tom Holland fan, you will be after this, honestly. You will be. With what happens to him out of his own decisions, we all can relate to making a bad decision and fucking up and having that come back to bite us. We can literally all relate to that. And that's exactly what happens here, to such a drastic degree that it's just it's heartbreaking, honestly. It's extremely heartbreaking. I got emotional several times in this movie, especially at the end. It's literally heart-wrenching. This is the best Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and especially Tom Holland have ever been in their roles of Spider-Man. And it's just the best out of the MCU Spider-Man movies. It's the best Spider-Man that we've seen in the MCU. And I wholeheartedly hope you guys go and check it out, because it is well worth your time. It's well worth your money. Like the movie theater that we went to, it was so packed that they ran out of popcorn before we even got to the counter. That's how packed it was. People love this stuff. People love Peter Parker. They love Spider-Man, and they love this movie. It was honestly that good. This reset that they're doing, phenomenal. And I cannot wait to see more. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts were of Spider-Man No Way Home. This is going to be Sunscape signing off. Take care, guys.